Ubisoft has been in deep trouble when it comes to Assassin's Creed Shadows. Basically, everybody's been roasting them, though it seems the mainstream media is trying their very best to continue to promote this dumpster fire. And now we're finding out the Japanese consultant used by Ubisoft in the New York Times to attack gamers recently was a Sweet Baby Inc. employee. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, it seems that they either did not know, which press X to doubt, or they were simply trying to hide this information from us. They didn't want to bring attention to this, knowing that they were going to get absolutely roasted. This is a That Park Place article. It says the so-called Japanese consultant that Ubisoft and the New York Times used to attack gamers over Shadows turns out to be an employee of Sweet Baby Inc. No real shocker there, because we do know, of course, Kim Belair used to work at Ubisoft. Ubisoft is, in fact, on the page where Sweet Baby Inc. talks about their projects, companies they've worked with, so they have officially partnered with Sweet Baby Inc. in the past, and we have all speculated that Kim Belair and Sweet Baby have helped in some way, shape, or form on Assassin's Creed Shadows, even though we did not have complete proof other than current Ubisoft employees retweeting Sweet Baby, talking about Kim Belair, and defending, each other because of Gamergate 2, though now it seems we have some definitive evidence. It says in the most recent hit piece run by the New York Times that appears to have been done in collaboration with Ubisoft, the outlet Zachary Small cited a so-called Japanese consultant and translator who claimed that criticism of the game was being done by individuals in the West using translators, and that the Japanese people were not upset with how the game not only features Yasuke as a protagonist, but that he's depicted as a samurai. They were saying, people in the West who were upset with seeing Yasuke as a samurai isn't the same as in Japan. People in Japan are not upset, which is such a massive lie. There are thousands of posts on social media from Japanese individuals who are perturbed by the fact that they picked Yasuke and that they ultimately decided to go with Yasuke being a samurai, even though we know in real life this figure was more of a retainer than a full-blown samurai. They're basically going with the fan fiction version of him, and there are plenty of people in Japan who do not like that. And yes, we may be using, Google Translate, but the majority of those posts were translated significantly better than what Western translators are coming up with. I mean, just look at all the situations that have happened with outlets like IGN, for example, and Black Myth Wukong. You can't trust translators who are working with these companies. They always need to be looked into. They always need to be researched. And that is exactly what is happening with this situation, because now we found out after a little bit of research that this person was discovered to be an employee of SBI. It says, if it was just Western people, why was a Japanese political party requesting an investigation into the game, and why did Ubisoft issue a so-called apology to Japanese gamers? It's like no one is on the same wavelength between the New York Times, Ubisoft, potentially SBI. None of them are in sync with each other, but nevertheless, it's been discovered that Hashimoto was an employee of Sweet Baby Inc. from February 2020 to April 2023, as noted by his own LinkedIn profile. And not only are they a former employee of SBI, but he's an activist journalist whose articles are featured on Polygon, Silicon Era, them, and multiple outlets owned by Gamers Group. Grums had shared even one article saying the Ubisoft, quote, expert from SBI that they cited to show Japan is cool with Assassin's Creed has locked their account, but not before the Japanese found this. And I mean, it's multiple hit pieces like, hi, I wrote about Animal Crossing New Horizons and why acknowledging Japan's history of colonial rule is important to the discussion. Absolutely freaking unhinged behavior. They've also written articles like, how gay can you be in Dragon's Dogma 2? And investigation, which of course is pathetic, but also kind of hilarious because we know the majority of people that work at these companies are activists. They can't work at a place like MSNBC. They can't work at a real political outlet. So what do? They have to go and they have to try to co-opt another group. They have to try to weasel their way into another industry, and they just picked video games because they thought it was an easy target, but it's not. Gamers are always going to fight back against this. Gamers are not happy with the activism that's being pushed into products and also by the mainstream media. And we are constantly going to be calling out situations like this, and it's only going to get worse for them. So this so-called expert has not only attacked gamers, but they also had worked at Sweet Baby Inc. And of course, it is unsurprising that they would use this person as a so-called expert to attack gamers. It's an old play the Access Media uses. This article does reference things like Amazon Prime Video previously using this to, try to promote the Rings of Power Season 1 by calling potential viewers racists and sexists, which is not a really good strategy. It sounds ridiculous when I have to sit here and explain it, but we have seen the media pull this card multiple times over the past couple of years, and it doesn't look like that is going to stop anytime soon. Now, if you had not heard about the original New York Times attack, I did another video on it. It will be linked down below. But that's basically what they did. They just went on and on about how gamers are terrible and about how, yes, Japanese gamers are not really upset by this and you're all just being racist and you're trying to find a way to make this into some weird culture war issue, they claimed, even though it is a very serious discussion that we have to have. This is the first time there's been a playable historical figure within this franchise. And so you would think they would want to do an extra good job of making sure they respected his story, the information we have on him, was put into this game so that it seems that they at least tried to follow some of the historical accounts we had of him, but they're going, in a crazy direction. I mean, you can have, from what we've heard, LGBT romances in this, and if you're playing as Yasuke, that means you will have LGBT romances. It doesn't sound like it's going to be a good situation for them, and so far it hasn't been. Every teaser and trailer has been ratioed, people have been pointing and laughing, and while I do think that this game is going to inevitably sell decent because Assassin's Creed is such a well-known name and an established franchise, I don't necessarily think it's going to do as amazing as they were hoping, and they really need a win with this. This year has been rough for them, with Skull and Bones being a failure, X-Defiant not being the Call of Duty killer they expected, Star Wars Outlaws being a disappointment and underperforming as they have said. So Assassin's Creed Shadows has to do extremely well for them, and it just doesn't look like that's going to be the case at this point. So I will be keeping my eye on this situation to see if this individual decides to go ahead and attack people for calling out their past that is public, even though it's not hidden information. The only people trying to hide it are Ubisoft and the New York Times by hiring this very questionable individual, but only time will tell, though for now that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.